Welcome to Education in Smart Biomedical Engineering YouTube channel. Today we are going to show you how to write biomedical engineering final year research project report or your dissertation. Here is the structure of the final year project report. First you're going to have a cover page, then a marking sheet, acknowledgement, abstract, then list of abbreviations, table of content, list of figures, then list of tables. Once you are done with this, you have to move to the body part of your final year project report. Now it's gonna conclude with chapters. Like first chapter is gonna be your introduction, then the second one is gonna be your literature review, then the third one is gonna be your conceptual design, and the fourth one is gonna be your methodology, and then the next one will be your implementation. Then chapter 6 will be your testings and results. Then chapter 7 will be your conclusion and future plan. Lastly, you should add a reference and appendices for your final year project report. Now in the cover page you must include your university logo, your name. You should write your name, your full name, then your student ID number, your batch number, then your course, then your project title. Then you must include your instructor or the supervisor's name. I will show you an example. So see, you have to include your batch. So here it's written Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Electronic Engineering. Then your faculty, then you can put your module number or the module code. Then you have to write your project title, then your student name, student ID, university name, and the supervisor's name. Make sure you check the spellings of the name of the supervisor before submitting. So once you are done that, you should write an acknowledgement for your final year research project report. Now basically here what you have to write is just give a appreciation or thanksgiving to your university, then your parents, etc. Now for this, if you are doing a degree program, you can write like 150 to 200 words in the acknowledgement. Don't just blabber anything in the acknowledgement. Just like small 1 or 2 para is enough. So moving on to the abstract, here you have to write a brief summary of your main idea of the project. Here you don't need to write like exact what you're gonna perform, just a brief idea like what is your project is all about. Now if you are a degree program student, then you can write like at least one page of A4 sheet or half a page of A4 sheet is enough. Here you can write like almost like 2 para is enough. Now this may vary according to the word count. Like your university will provide you a word count, specific word count. Based on that word count, you have to adjust the stuff. So after the abstract, you have to put a list of abbreviation. So list of abbreviation means like you have to write all the technical terms in short forms. Like if you are an engineering student, you know like what are the technical forms. Like IC means integrated circuit, then AC means alternative current, DC means direct current, and TX stand for transmitter, then RX stand for TX, so on. You have to write whatever the abbreviations you used in your final year project report. So basically you can write technical short form of technical terms here. So once you are done that, you have to write a table of content. Now make sure when you are writing the table of content, it must be aligned properly. Don't just write it here and there. Make it look like this. Here I have show you an example. See, just make it look like, aligned properly. Here you can clearly see that chapter 1 is introduction and it is in page number 12, and the subsection of chapter 1 are like problem identification, aim, objectives, scope and limitations, like so on. You have to make it look nice. It doesn't matter how many pages it contains, you have to keep it look nice and have like proper information regarding your final year project report. So once you are done with that, you can add a list of figures. Same like the table of content, you have to make it look aligned properly, and you have to number your figures and make sure to give a proper title. Like you have to write like figure number, then just give a small title for your figure, what this figure explain about. So once you are done with that, you can put a page number. And the other thing is, like, if you know how to use MS Office, you know how to make changes and adjust these things automatically. If you don't know, please let us know in the comment section below. We'll help you with that. So after the list of figures, you must have a list of table. Same like the list of figures, you have to number your tables properly and give a title, like informative title about your table and the page number. So once you have completed these stuff, you should write an introduction. Now in the introduction, basically you have to include a background of your final year project title. Then you have to write a problem identification, then an aim, then objectives, then scope and limitation. So based on the word count, the length of these stuff will be vary. So you have to make sure exactly what's your word count is. So suppose if it is a 8,000 word count limitation, then you can write like one para for the background, then another para for the problem identification, and in the aim you can write like 1 to 3 sentence. Like you have to write it very briefly and informatively. Don't write so many things on the aim, just make it look simple, short and simple. And the objectives, you have to write like 1 to 4 or 5. Now the number of objectives may vary from unit to unit. You have to discuss it with your supervisor. And the scope and limitation, now the scope will always vary based on your project title, and the limitations also will be vary, but make sure don't write so many limitations for your project title. Make sure it's like pinpoint out to one or two points. And once you are done with the introduction, you have to do a literature review, or you have to write a literature review. Now when you are writing your literature review, now this is the most hardest part when you are writing your final year dissertation, and this is the place where you're gonna gain more marks also. So make sure you do a proper literature review based on your project title. So to do your literature review, first you have to do a research on your project title with the existing projects, and you have to find a fault in existing projects. Suppose if you are a student who is following a HND or a degree program, university doesn't ask you to innovate a new concept or something like that. You just go through stuff and gain some knowledge and identify some problem and renovate it. That's the best way you can gain marks, rather than trying to innovate. If you can innovate a new concept and a new innovation, go for it, no problem. But I'm telling this for people who are unable to do such thing. So make sure you renovate the existing project. That's it. So, and the other thing is, when you're doing a literature review, you had to keep a record of what are the research paper you are referring to. Now, to do this, make sure you are having an Excel or OneNote regarding to this literature review research papers. And here you can include a literature mapping, and lastly, make sure you write a conclusion for your research literature review, and make sure that you don't put figures. Don't make it look like an album. So don't include many figures, but sometimes if your supervisor asks you to add, you can add, but most of the time supervisors are not happy with including figures in the literature review. Okay, I will show you how to keep a record of the research papers you refer using an Excel sheet. Now, once you complete your literature review, you have to write a conceptual design. Now, this may vary from uni to uni. This might comes under methodology, like how you're gonna do it. Now, this may vary. Make sure before you start writing your final year thesis, ask help from your supervisor for that. Don't just go through the internet and whatever the structures you find, don't just go through those things and start writing your final year project report. That's not gonna work, because each and every university have different structure and different rules and regulations when it coming to marking. So make sure you discuss about your final year project report with your supervisor. Here now we are gonna give a brief introduction, like what you're gonna write in these particular chapters. Now when it comes to the conceptual design, mainly like many universities will ask you to have 3 conceptual design, and the 4th one will be your proposed design. So for the three conceptual design, you have to have separate pages and separate block diagrams with a separate explanation which is related to particular conceptual design. And in the 4th block diagram, you must write that it is the proposed design. And when you are explaining about your conceptual designs 1 or 2 or 3, make sure like from where you got this idea, or it is something that you got from a research paper you refer before, and like what's gonna work in this particular design and what's gonna not work for you. Those things you have to write. Like your analytical skills must be involved in this section. And when you are writing about the 4th block diagram, that means your proposed design, you have to write a proper description for that, like what are the inputs of your system, what are the outputs of your system, how it's going to process, and what are the softwares you are planning to use. Those things you have to write in the proposed design thing. So once you're done with that, you can move to the methodology. Now methodology is basically like consists with two parts. One is the hardware and one is the software. Methodology, like basically it means like how you gonna do your project. So here I have put an example like for the hardware part and for the software part. Now here, if you are using particular electronical module, so you have to write that technical name of that, then include a picture, then give a figure name. Then if you got this picture from somewhere else, you can add an citation for it. Then just give a brief introduction. Like overall what you have to do is write the basic function of this component. Once you are done with that, use a information which you got from the data sheet, and also make sure when you do that, put a citation like where you got it from, because when you do a citation properly, your plagiarism percentage will be low. And here you can add like how you're going to interface this component with particular other components. Those things you can add in the methodology. And when it comes to the software methodology, you can write like what are the softwares you are going to use in your project report. Like it can be, if you are innovating an app, you might use Android Studio or MIT App Inventor. Or if you are dealing with like signals or any other stuff, you will use MATLAB. And if you are using like Arduino or any other microcontroller, maybe you use Arduino IDE. So those things you have to put a picture and just give a brief summary of like how you are going to use this particular software in your final year project. So once you are done with that, you can go to the implementation. Now in the implementation, what you have to do is include as many as pictures, like how you implement your hardware design, how you implement your software design. Those things you must include, and name your figures properly, give a title for them and explain. Now this is a very crucial part, because if your implementation part is good, you are gonna gain more marks in your final research project. So make sure to include as many as figures while you are building your final project. So it might be a hardware part of your implementation, it might be a software part, that doesn't matter. Make sure that you put each and every figure in the implementation part of your thesis, because this is gonna gain you mark. And once you are done with your implementation part, you have to write about the testing and results. Now in the testings, what you have to do is like how you're gonna test your hardware, how you're gonna test your softwares using any general scientific method. It depends. Now if you want to know the current flow of your hardware design, you have to use the general scientific method, like how you're going to use to measure your current flow in the system using a multimeter. So those things and the readings of those multimeter values must be captured in a figure, and you can include that in your final year project report. Now when it comes to the result, it can be either graphical, numerical, or using tables. Like comparison, for comparison you can use tables. And now this is also plays like a typical role in your final year thesis, because this is where you're gonna use your critical thinking knowledge when it comes to the testing and results. So make sure you write a proper testing and result chapter for your thesis, because you will gain marks if your testing and results are good. It doesn't matter whether your testing failed or not, whether you got a result or not, you just add whatever the procedure you include to test and what are the results you obtain. So once you are done with this, your last chapter will be the conclusion and the future work. In the conclusion, you have to write a brief summary of your work. If I say it in your words, you have to describe the hits and flops of your project work. So in the conclusion, make sure that you write like small introduction for your project and what is your aim of the project, then what are the objectives of the project, like how many objectives you have in your project. Then you can take one by one of your objectives and explain. Now suppose if your objective 1 was to do a literature survey, how you did that? You went to certain websites, you refer IEEE, then you went to Google Scholar and search. Then you using this method, you successfully complete your objective 1. Likewise, you can write to the objective 4, 3, whatever the objectives you have in your final year project report. And finally, you can write a small conclusion, like now if there are 4 objectives in your final year project report, you can write I successfully complete these 4 objectives, therefore it is a successful project according to my knowledge. Don't write exactly like it is a successful because I successfully completed the all objectives. So make sure you just write that according to my knowledge it is prefer as good because I achieve all the 4 objectives. Likewise, and in the future work, if you are trying to expand your work in future, you can write a brief of that, like half a para or maybe half a page is enough for that. Lastly, you have to include a reference. Now this is where that table gonna help you, like I told you previously, to have a record of your reference using an Excel. This is the place where you need that. So according to many universities, like the referencing style might vary. Most of the UK universities use Harvard referencing style to reference the research papers, and certain other referencing styles are MLA, APA, Chicago, and so on. The referencing style may vary according to your university. Therefore, before start making any document regarding referencing, you just speak with your supervisor and figure it out which referencing style is preferred by your university. If you guys don't know how to do the referencing, let us know in the comment section below. We'll help you with that, how to do Harvard referencing and so on. And lastly, I want to tell you guys that when you are doing your appendices, you can add large images, schematic diagrams, your Gantt chart to the appendix. So that's it for this video, guys. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe to our channel. Take care. Bye bye.